In 1962, Herb Alpert became broke, recording music in his garage, and approximately to make the riskiest flow of his lifestyles. Today, he's really worth nearly $1 billion. The stunning element is, it all began with 200 in a sound he discovered through twist of fate. From outselling the Beatles to constructing an empire, that is the untold story of how one musician's wild gamble paid off larger than absolutely everyone imagined. Herb Alpert's tale starts in Boyle Heights, Los Angeles, where he turned into born on March 31st, 1935. His dad and mom, Louis and Tilly Alpert, had been Jewish immigrants, his father from Ukraine, his mother from Romania. They had left in the back of hard lives in Eastern Europe, attempting to find higher opportunities in America. Their new domestic changed into modest, however, it became packed with song. Louis labored as a tailor, yet his real ardor became the mandolin. He performed by means of ear, regularly improvising melodies. Tilly, alternatively, was a skilled violinist. She believed in area and shape within the electricity of exercise. Music wasn't simply entertainment of their domestic, it was a manner of lifestyles. This became the world Herb grew up in. The Great Depression made lifestyles harder, but it by no means silenced their ardor. Despite monetary struggles, the Alperts made certain their children had get admission to tune lessons. Herb wasn't the handiest musically proficient one in the own family. His older brother David played drums. His sister Mimi mastered the piano. Their domestic became like a small orchestra. The three of them played together, experimenting, studying, shaping every other's capabilities without even realizing it. But Herb became exclusive. He turned into quiet, shy, often suffering to express himself. Words didn't come effortlessly, but track did. When he turned into 8 years old, something befell that modified his life forever. A track appreciation class at Melrose Elementary delivered him to the trumpet. The second he held it, something clicked. It became greater than just an instrument. It became a voice, his voice. Learning to play wasn't clean. The trumpet demanded breath, energy, and manage. His first classes had been frustrating, and his early exercise sessions had been some distance from exceptional to those around him. Neighbors complained about the noise. His mom had a distinctive response. She told him to play louder. She wasn't just protecting him. She turned into encouraging him to own his sound, to embrace it. By the time he was a teenager, Herb changed into acting at nearby dances. These gigs weren't pretty much earning profits. They had been his first real classes in live overall performance. He found out how to study a crowd, how to play with power, a way to adapt. At the equal time, he had become inquisitive about recording. He got his hands on a wire recorder and commenced experimenting. At Fairfax High School, he took tunes severely. He wasn't simply playing, he changed into experimenting. But tune wasn't his most effective consciousness. He turned into also at the gymnastics group, specializing inside the rings. That ended while an emergency appendectomy sidelined him. With sports off the desk, he threw himself into music. After graduating in 1953, he enrolled at the University of Southern California to have a look at song. He performed within the Trojan Marching Band, refining his skills. But his time at USC didn't remain long. In 1954, the U.S. Army drafted him throughout the Korean War. Instead of heading to fight, he turned into stationed on the Presidio in San Francisco, gambling inside the 6th Army Band. This revel in driven him to discover his personal voice as a musician. He later stated that being round so many proficient players pressured him to innovate. When he lowered back to Los Angeles in 1957, he considered appearing, but soon found out his passion become nevertheless in tune. He commenced running behind the scenes, teaming up with lyricist Rob Wieritz. Together they wrote and produced songs, and in 1959 they had their first foremost success, Baby Talk, recorded by using surf rock duo Jan and Dean, hit range 10 at the Billboard charts. That success brought about some other partnership, this time with songwriter Lou Adler. The two wrote songs for eager information artists, consisting of Sam Cooke. In 1959, they co-wrote Wonderful World, which Cooke recorded and launched the subsequent YRR. He altered a number of the lyrics, adding a college-themed twist that resonated with listeners. The music had become a major hit, attaining Variety 12 at the Billboard Hot 100 and Wide Variety on the R&B chart. Over time, it became one of Cooke's maximum-loved recordings, included through endless artists. Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss met in 1961, a moment that set the degree for one of the most A-hit Impartial Report labels in history. Moss, born in the Bronx on May 8, 1935, had studied English at Brooklyn College before diving into the track enterprise as a promoter. He moved to Los Angeles in 1960, seeking out opportunities inside the growing industry. Alpert, born on March 31, 1935, in Los Angeles, had already made a name for himself as a musician and songwriter. He co-wrote Wonderful World for Sam Cooke and became recognized for his trumpet gambling. Their paths crossed whilst Alpert to play on a song called Love is Back in Style. That meeting led to something bigger than both of them ought to have anticipated. In 1962, they took a jump of religion and began their very own label, with just 100 everyday release, Carnival Records. Their first release turned into Tell It to the Birds, credited to Dor Alpert, a name Herb used early in his profession. The track gained some interest and turned into Offered to Dot Records for $750. It wasn't a fortune, but it had become a start. Then they ran into a problem. Another organization became already the use of the call Carnival Records. They wanted something new. They determined on A&M data the use of the primary letters in their closing names. It was easy, however it worked. The early days had been a ways from glamorous. They ran A&M out of Alpert Storage in West Hollywood, with nothing more than a desk, a piano, and telephone lines. They treated everything themselves from recording to distribution. Then got here the Lonely Bull. Alpert were given the concept after looking a bullfight in Tijuana. He desired to capture that energy in a song, using layered trumpets and including sound consequences of a cheering crowd. He created something specific. When the single turned into released in August 1962, it took off. It climbed to Variety 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and bought over 700,000 copies. For an unbiased label operating out of a storage, this became huge. With a success on their fingers, Alpert and Moss driven forward. Later that year, Alpert released his first album, The Lonely Bull. The success of the title tune helped the album promote well, proving that A&M may want to compete with primary labels. They didn't prevent there. They signed new artists like Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 and the Baja Marimba Band, expanding their roster beyond simply Alpert's music. One factor set A&M aside from different labels. They gave artists innovative freedom. While massive file businesses targeted on making hits fast, A&M depended on musicians to experiment and locate their own sound. This technique attracted a numerous range of artists: jazz legend Quincy Jones, soft rock duo The Carpenters, and plenty of others found a domestic at A&M. By 1966, A&M had outgrown its garage headquarters. They moved into the historic Charlie Chaplin Studios in Hollywood, a signal of how a ways they are available in just a few years. But whilst they grew, the inspiration of the employer stayed the equal. Alpert handled the innovative side. Moss took care of enterprise. Their partnership turned into Built on Consider, and they never let go of that. For almost 3 decades, A&M remained one of the maximum reputable independent labels inside the international. They signed mythical artists, launched groundbreaking tune, and constructed a reputation for placing artists first. When they sold the enterprise in 1989 for $500 million, they had already changed the music industry all the time. Herb Alpert's signature sound did not come from a recording studio or a tune idea ebook. It came from something a long way extra surprising, a bullfight in Tijuana. In the early 1960s, he and his commercial enterprise companion, Jerry Moss, took regular trips to Mexico. The power of the crowds, the spectacle of the fights, and maximum of all, the sound of the brass bands made a deep influence on him. These weren't just background music, they were part of the drama, blasting triumphant fanfares as matadors stepped into the ring. The depth of all of it caught with him. Then got here the instant that modified the whole lot. In 1962, Alpert attended a bullfight featuring Carlos Aruza, certainly one of Mexico's most famous matadors. That day, the band turned into lead with the aid of Miguel Bravo, a musician with ties to Rafael Mendez, one of the United States of America's best trumpet players.